Have you ever asked why there's a river in Idaho called the River of No Return? Or why a river in Central Africa has a word in it that I'm definitely not saying out loud? Today, we're going through the strangest river names on the planet. And by the end, you'll be wondering who let these people near a map. Starting with the River of No Return in Central Idaho. Because the name alone makes it sound scary. There is no way I'm going fishing at a river that's literally telling me I'm not coming back. So where did the name come from? Well, the river is technically called the Salmon River, and it cuts through one of the deepest canyons in North America, with water moving so fast that fur trappers in the 1800s figured out, usually the hard way, that you could float a boat downstream no problem, but getting a boat back upstream against that current was basically impossible. Some trappers would just build their boats knowing they'd have to leave them at the bottom or break them up for firewood because nobody was rowing back up. The second you got in the water, the river decided where you were going. I genuinely expected there to be a monster in there, but it's really just that once you went down, you weren't coming back up. Next one is brutal though. Blood River, which is located in South Africa. And this is one of those names where you don't really need the backstory because it's exactly what it sounds like. In December 1838, there was a group of Dutch settlers going through South Africa looking for farmland. But all of a sudden, they found themselves surrounded by the local Zulu army near this river. Like 10,000 Zulu warriors against only a few hundred of these Dutch guys. But the thing was that even though the Dutch had a lot less warriors, they had firearms. Whereas the Zulu army was using spears and so you can probably conclude how the battle went down. The Dutch guys went all out, just sliming the local Zulus the out while barely taking any losses themselves. And when the fight was over, the whole river was red for days from the pure amount of bodies, and they decided to name it the Blood River. But hey, that's still probably the most efficient naming in history. Toad suck. That's what this next one is called. It's a stretch of the Arkansas River in central Arkansas, and it sounds made up until you hear where it actually came from. Back in the 1800s, steamboats on the Arkansas River would constantly get stuck at this exact spot, waiting for the water level to come up enough to pass through safely, sometimes even sitting there for days with literally nothing to do. And what do you know, there happened to be a bar right next to where the boats got stuck. So of course, with nothing else to do, the crew would go there and down beers for days without a problem. But the local farmers in the area were not happy about it, and the phrase that ended up sticking was that those crews would sit there sucking on bottles until they swelled up like toads. Man, how were people this creative back then? And if you thought that was something, you probably haven't heard of PP Creek. What the fuck? Is this real? This river in Ohio is exactly what it sounds like, and honestly somehow even better once you know the story. It goes back to 1785 when a group of settlers were trying to claim land in the Scioto Valley, and one of them carved his initials PP into a beech tree right on the creek's bank. Shortly after, the settlement got attacked and the group was driven out. The guy who carved the initials was gone, probably slimed out, and the area stayed mostly empty for years. Then when new settlers came back later, they found those two letters still carved into that tree, had no idea who put them there, and just started calling the creek PP Creek, which then became the name of the whole township. And rather than just leaving it as two letters, someone wrote it out phonetically as PP. I thought it wouldn't get more random than this, but I was wrong. The Frying Pan River in Colorado. So during the Colorado Gold Rush, some guy found a spot along this river that looked promising, and already seeing the riches he would soon acquire, he needed to mark the spot before going to get more supplies. Sounds smart, except instead of doing literally anything sensible, like carving an X into a tree, he took his cast iron frying pan, put it in the water right at that spot, and left. Whether he found gold, whether he even found his way back, none of that made it into any record anywhere. What did make it in is that people started calling that stretch the Frying Pan until the river was officially named after it. What a legend. Here's one that genuinely annoyed me when I found out. The Snake River runs over 1,000 miles through Idaho, Wyoming, and Washington, and it got its name because European explorers misread a hand sign from the Shoshone people. The Shoshone were making an S-shaped swimming motion with their hands to represent fish in the river. The explorers looked at that motion and decided it looked like a snake and just wrote that down as the name. The Shoshone were literally describing themselves as people who live near a river full of fish, and the explorers turned that into Snake River. The rage bait here is crazy. A local newspaper in 1905 literally called the name revolting and said it forever eliminates the river from song or sentiment. Nobody cared. Snake River. Though from here things get heavier. The Rogue River in southern Oregon. In the 1850s, white settlers started calling the local Takelma people who lived along the river rogues. Basically just calling them criminals and troublemakers. Specifically because those people were pushing back against being removed from land their communities had lived on forever. Which, you know, you can't blame them for. But what came next was the Rogue River Wars. Yo, this sounds like a Hypixel minigame, but no, it was an actual war with years of escalating violence and burned villages on both sides, finally ending with the loss of the Takelma people. Although the name Rogue by itself low-key sounds pretty cool, it was just people gaslighting other people for not wanting to leave their home before slamming them out. And this next one actually got me. Pretty Boy Stream, which is located in Maryland. There's probably at least 2 questions in your head right now. Where the fuck did this name come from, and why is it the official name of the river? Well, hold your horses there, I'll tell you. So the story goes that a farmer had this white horse named Pretty Boy, and by all accounts, this horse was the pride of the whole neighborhood. Everyone knew about this horse. But on one stormy day, a thunderstorm hit while Pretty Boy was out in the pasture near the stream. The horse panicked, fell into the water, and sadly drowned. The farmer was so devastated that he named the stream after it. This one was more wholesome than I had expected. The horse has been gone for over 100 years, but its spirit still lives in the stream. Okay, and this is the one I mentioned at the very start that I said I'm definitely not saying out loud. The Niger River. And just to be clear, I am not saying it wrong on purpose. That is literally just the name. But here's where it actually gets interesting, because the name might not even mean what everyone assumed it meant. For a long time, the explanation was that it came from the Latin word Niger, meaning black, which Europeans just slapped onto it the way they did with everything. But most language experts today think that's probably just a coincidence that got repeated enough times to become accepted fact. The actual origin most likely comes from a Tuareg phrase, Gurunjarun, meaning river of rivers, basically the locals describing how massive it was compared to everything around it. European explorers heard that phrase, didn't understand a single word of it, and just grabbed onto whatever version of the sound matched something they already knew. And then enough map makers copied it, enough writers repeated it, and suddenly that lazy guess became the official story for centuries. While the people who had been calling it something completely different the whole time were never asked once. So it probably wasn't what you thought it was. Or then it was what you thought it was. I don't know you. And the last one, the Hudson River in New York, named after the English explorer Henry Hudson, who in 1609 became the first European to sail up it. Cool legacy, river named after you, very impressive. There's just one thing. Before dawn on June 22nd, 1611, his own crew seized the ship, bundled Hudson onto the deck, forced him into a small open boat, and threw his teenage son in after him. And then the Discovery sailed away. Hudson and everyone in that boat were never seen again. So that's the Hudson River. But have you ever wondered why Greenland is named Greenland? Well, after watching the video on the screen, you'll be left wondering if smoking crack was just an everyday habit for these explorers who were uncovering the secrets of this planet.